When did you start looking at indecent images of children?
It was probably right around 2013. I just enjoyed looking at it, you know.
Imagine finding out your parent was an online child sex offender.
I felt like I couldn't tell anyone. I was so scared that people would think that I would end up like him as well.
You might think this is rare, but it's happening to thousands of British children every year. So what would you do if it happened to you? Or if this was your child? Where could you go for help?
Is there enough support for children?
Absolutely not. Those children will absolutely fall through the gap.
What you're about to hear is disturbing. But we wanted to investigate why online child sex offenders get free, automatic help, but their children are entitled to nothing. You'll hear from Ava, who was left with suicidal thoughts due to her father's offending. But first from her dad, John. He agreed to speak to try and stop people from doing what he did and to get help for families. We've changed both their names to protect their identities for fear of reprisals.
I was on the internet on a chat site. Someone sent a link. I opened it and that's what it was. Then more people started sending links and it just kind of gathered pace from there, really. It kind of sucks you in without you even realising it. And it becomes almost like a drug to, you know, get your fix sort of thing.
What was it about it that you found so compelling?
It was just... I just enjoyed looking at it. And at the time, you kind of don't think about what you're doing and how wrong it is.
After years of offending, in 2019, John was arrested. Police found more than 1,000 indecent images and videos of children on his laptop.
What was that immediate 24 hours like for you after your
Hell.
arrest?
I wanted to kill myself. It was the only way I could see out of the situation because your mind kind of runs into overtime. Then I'm thinking about my daughter, my son. How's it going to affect them?
This is where Ava comes in. Then living with her mum and just 13.
We were out for my brother's birthday and we'd just been to Pizza Hut and we'd had a really good evening. And I remember being in the car on the way back and my mum got a call and she answered the phone and it was the police. I was so scared. After that, we found out that we weren't going to be able to see our dad for... Well, we didn't know how long we weren't going to see him for or even speak to him. I couldn't text him or anything. I was just wondering what's going on. Like, I didn't know. I didn't understand.
Meanwhile, John had been released by police on bail. He was planning to take his own life until a call changed everything.
It was Friday afternoon and I planned to go and do it on the Friday evening. But I was given some leaflets at the police station of organisations that can help. One of them was an organisation in Leeds. I called up and I spoke to the chap who was very sympathetic and understanding of the situation and that I was in. And he said to me, "Have you got any thoughts of suicide?" And I said, yeah.
So do you think that free counselling, that support saved your life?
I think so, yeah. At that particular point in time, yeah, it kind of stopped me in my tracks, really.
But for Ava, the nightmare was just starting. She eventually spoke to her dad, who told her what he had done, but unlike him, there was no free professional help to deal with what came next.
When I found out, it genuinely felt like my world was crumbling around me. I didn't get offered any support. I got told that we were going to have to speak to social services at some point, maybe get interviewed or something like that, but then nothing really came of it. I felt like I couldn't tell anyone. I was so embarrassed of what people might think of me. It sounds so silly, but I was so scared that people would think that I would end up like him as well. I felt like this really big secret that I just had to hold in.
You can't share that with anybody. It takes a very, very brave man to go around sharing it with people because people can get killed for things like that.
And do you think your children carry that same sense of fear or shame?
Yeah. They wouldn't tell anybody, would they?
I genuinely felt like the only person that was going through it because I didn't know anyone else whose parents had done something like that.
But the fact is, she's far from the only one. Every month in England and Wales, there are 850 arrests for online child sex offences. And whereas those suspects, like John, can access free services like counselling for their children, there is no such support unless families can pay. It's leading to children with serious mental health issues who are more likely to offend themselves.
Do you think it's fair or right that in terms of professional therapy and support, that offenders get more support than the children in these situations who are, much less emotionally able or mature enough to...
They're a lot more vulnerable, aren't they? I think they should get more support than the offender, because nobody stops and asks them, really, do they? Nobody thinks about what they're going through.
If I'm being honest, I turned to drugs. I was doing lots of class A's and B's and going out all the time. I guess because it was just a form of escape for a very, very long time. There was a point in my life where I just didn't believe it was going to get better. I really just didn't want to exist. I was just like, if this is what life is like, then why am I here?
I understand that this is probably something that'll affect the rest of her life. You try and protect your kids, don't you? People try and protect their kids from people like me.
We asked the Ministry of Justice about whether these children should be classed as victims and entitled to free help. They told us, we sympathise with the challenges faced by the unsuspecting families of sex offenders and fund a helpline for prisoners' families which provides free and confidential support.
But we've now contacted that helpline and they told us that they can only help these children if and when their parent goes to prison, which for online offences they rarely do. And even then they don't offer a service like counselling. The Ministry of Justice also sent us a list of charities that they said could help. But when we contacted those charities directly, they said they don't offer services to these children.
Those children will absolutely fall through the gap.
In 2021, Professor Rachel Armitage started Talking Forward. It's the only free peer support group for families in England, but even they don't have the resources to help under 18s.
So we'll have families that are paying for private therapy for their children, getting in a huge amount of debt to pay for that. So if we could get these children recognised as victims, as the Domestic Abuse Act recognised children in a domestic abuse household as being the victim of domestic abuse, even though they weren't a direct victim, so they get the therapeutic intervention, referral to school to let them know that something has happened which that child needs consideration for. But I think there's some sort of belief that these families are almost not deserving enough. There's some sort of hierarchy of harms, and the harms that they've experienced, they haven't been a victim of a contact offence, that it's not taken seriously enough, or that they're harmed enough, really.
In some ways we're kind of forgotten about by the services, like you say, it's always about the offender and there isn't really anything for the families.
There may be people watching this who are going through right now what you went through. Yeah. Is there anything you want to sort of say to those teenagers?
Sorry. I guess I just...
Why has that question made you cry?
I think because I probably needed to hear this at that point in my life. I had people telling me that there were people, but they'd never been through what I had been through. So I brushed it off, but I would tell them to stay strong. And it will get easier over time.